You check the numbers one more time. Your hands are shaking. Every single digit matches. You just won millions of dollars. And within 5 years, you will probably be broke. That is not a guess. That is a pattern. And the reason behind it has almost nothing to do with bad luck. It has everything to do with how your brain was built to handle money and why a sudden flood of wealth can destroy a person faster than poverty ever could. Think about the last time you got a raise, or a bonus, or even just a good month. Did you save most of it, or did your life quietly expand to fill the extra space? New subscriptions, better restaurants, a few things you had been putting off. Almost without deciding to, you upgraded. That feeling has a name. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, but the version that hits lottery winners is something far more extreme and far more brutal. In 1978, psychologist Philip Brickman conducted one of the most famous studies in the psychology of happiness. He compared lottery winners to people who had suffered serious accidents that left them paralyzed. 1 year later, both groups reported nearly identical levels of happiness. The lottery winners were not floating. The accident survivors were not destroyed. Both had returned almost completely to their emotional baseline. Brickman called this hedonic adaptation. Your brain normalizes everything. $1 million feels like a miracle on Monday. By Thursday, it feels like your new normal, and your new normal demands more. This is the first trap. Not greed, not stupidity, just the invisible machinery of the human mind doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now imagine you are Michael Carroll. In 2002, Carroll won nearly £10 million in the UK lottery. He was 19 years old, working as a garbage collector. Within a decade, the money was gone. He had bought a mansion, hosted wild parties, bought fleets of cars, and watched them get demolished in a private demolition derby. By 2012, he was back to collecting garbage. And in interviews, he said he was happier. Carroll is not a cautionary tale about excess. He is a case study in financial psychology. He had no framework for wealth, no mental model for what money was supposed to do over time, no relationship with delayed gratification. He had spent his entire life in a world where money was scarce and immediate. Then overnight, scarcity disappeared, and his brain had no map for that territory. This is what behavioral economist Richard Thaler described as mental accounting. Human beings do not treat all money the same way. Money you earn through years of labor feels different from money that arrived in a windfall. Windfall money, psychologically, feels like house money, found money, play money. And so it gets spent like play money, not saved, not invested, spent on things that feel good right now in this moment, to a brain that was never trained to think 50 years ahead. Warren Buffett has talked about this in a different way. He has said that the most important financial skill is not picking stocks or reading balance sheets. It is the ability to delay gratification, to choose future wealth over present comfort. Most people never develop that skill because they never had to. When money is tight, you spend what you have. When a lottery check arrives, you spend what you have. The behavior does not automatically change just because the number on the check does. And then the social pressure begins. This is the part nobody talks about. When you win the lottery, you do not just become wealthy, you become a target. Cousins you have not spoken to in a decade appear at your door. Old friends suddenly need loans. New friends appear who are very interested in your lifestyle and your generosity. Requests pile up, and for someone who grew up in a working-class community, saying no to family feels like betrayal. So you say yes, and yes, and yes again. Studies on lottery winners conducted by economists Jay Zagorski and Scott Hankins found that a large windfall, rather than improving long-term financial stability, often accelerated bankruptcy in the years following the win. Recipients who had never managed significant assets suddenly had to make decisions that seasoned wealth managers spend entire careers learning to navigate. And they had to make those decisions while being surrounded by people who all wanted a piece. There is another layer underneath this. It is called sudden wealth syndrome, and it is a real psychological phenomenon studied by financial therapists and clinical researchers. The symptoms include anxiety, paranoia, guilt, and a persistent sense of unworthiness. Many lottery winners describe feeling like the money does not really belong to them, like they don't deserve it, like it will be taken away. That feeling does not lead to careful investing. It leads to spending, because spending feels like using the money before someone can take it. Think about that for a moment. The very thing that should create security is creating fear, and the fear is driving the behavior that creates the very instability they were afraid of. Robert Shiller, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, has written about the relationship between narrative and financial behavior. The stories we tell ourselves about money shape every decision we make with it. If your story is that people like you are not supposed to have wealth, if that story was built over 20 or 30 years of watching money leave your hands as fast as it arrived, then a lottery win does not rewrite that story. It just gives you more money to lose. The financial system also does not help. A lottery winner receives a check, not a financial education. There is no onboarding, no required consultation with a fiduciary advisor. In many cases, the winner's identity is made public, which opens them to an immediate wave of solicitations from financial product salespeople, investment scheme operators, and distant relatives with urgent business ideas. The infrastructure around sudden wealth is designed to extract it, not preserve it. This is why the research consistently shows that inherited wealth follows a similar pattern. A study by the Williams Group, a wealth consultancy, found that approximately 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation and 90% by the third. The money outlasts the financial habits by only one generation, because habits, unlike bank balances, cannot be transferred. You can give someone $1 million, you cannot give them the decades of behavior that led someone else to build it. So what actually works? The rare lottery winners who hold on to their wealth share a few common behaviors. They delay. They do not touch the money for at least 6 months after winning. They use that time to build a team, a tax attorney, a certified financial planner, a fiduciary advisor who is legally required to act in their interest, not in the interest of a commission. They say no to almost everyone for the first year, and they live for a surprisingly long time as if the money is not quite real yet, because that caution is actually wisdom. Financial planner and author Carl Richards calls this the behavior gap, the space between what we know we should do with money and what we actually do with it. Lottery winners do not have a money problem, they have a behavior gap problem. And the gap is widened by every social pressure, every emotional association, every old mental story about what money means and who deserves to keep it. Here is what this means for your own life. You may never win the lottery, but you will have windfalls. A tax refund, a work bonus, an inheritance, a raise, a good year. And your brain will respond to that windfall in the exact same way a lottery winner's brain does. It will normalize the number, it will generate desire, it will feel social pressure, it will tell you a story about what you deserve and what you should do right now with this money that arrived. The question is not whether you can resist all of that. The question is whether you have built a system strong enough to survive it. A plan that exists before the money arrives, an advisor you trust, a rule you already decided on, a gap between receiving money and spending it, even a small one, that gives your prefrontal cortex a chance to catch up with your emotions. Because the lottery winner who goes broke is not a different species. They are a version of every person who ever got a raise and felt broke again 6 months later. They just had more zeros and more speed. You check the numbers one more time. Your hands are shaking. Every single digit matches. And this time, you already know what you are going to do.